call to order this meeting of the Stormwater Management Board on November 10th, 2020. And we have no minutes for this month and no old business, so we will proceed right to new business. Terry, if you'd like to go over the stormwater expenditure report. I think you're muted.
Still on vacation. I've sent everybody a copy of the auditor's appropriations balance sheet. Should be, I just sent it out just a few minutes ago. Have you got access to that?
I have it open.
I'm having continuing issues with the spreadsheet we have, in that it doesn't account for encumbered funds from the previous year that we've rolled over, and it's making weird percentages. If you look at the 300s, I keep coming up with percentages over 100%. So what I've done is include this auditor appropriation balance so that you can see the details and know that I'm working on the spreadsheet and trying to work through the issues with it to get it correct. But
sorry to interject, Terry.
That's
Were we
fine.
going to share the screen? Was that a goal of ours? Not to put Connie on the spot.
Yeah.
Who will need to screen share?
I have the documents up if Connie's not prepared, but Connie typically does it, so.
So to kind of reiterate to add on to what Terry was stating, we in the Highway Department got a new program at the first of the year. It's called CHARTS. It's County Highway Accounting Tracking System. So those numbers were being transferred over to an Excel spreadsheet outside of our program. So everything that was in that Excel spreadsheet that Jim Faber was questioning about 300%, we kind of dove into why that was happening. Well, some of the additionals, transfers, encumbrances were not being transferred over to that outside Excel spreadsheet. So this is actual numbers. This is actual expenditures for every single line. So you can see what we appropriated, what's been spent, and the balance as of, I believe, as of like October 23rd. So this is as accurate and as up to date, and it shows what's spent in every single line in that budget. And we'll work on a summary if you would prefer a summary. I just, in talking to one of our financial assistants, I hate to transfer numbers from one program to another program because then you can have room for error. It's just, to me, a lot easier if you take straight from your program and you're balancing with the auditor of what's being paid. You know, it's a little bit more to look at, but it is 100% accurate also.
What's on the screen does say that it's balance as of September 30th.
Okay, so they ran it through the September 30th, so that way, since you guys were anticipating looking at a September 30th month. So, but this is everything throughout the year. It's January 1st through September 30th that's been paid out of those lines.
Terry, do you want to go over it with us?
I can, but there's several pages here.
Yeah.
What I might suggest is that you look through it at your leisure and send me an email with any questions, and I'll respond that way rather than try to go through 3 pages of them. If you see anything that jumps out at you, I'll try to address it now. But
is that okay with everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a two discussions here is kind of the summary and the detailed. And I agree with Lisa completely that there's a lot of potential for human error transferring it. But I do like the summary, and I think it's really easier for the public to kind of consume. And I know Lao is pretty um, uh, adaptable, if you will. So I don't know if we could export it directly from Lao. I do the same things. I was trying to keep, or I do keep a real-time budget, and I always then, you know, look at that, and then I go to the Lao to actually see kind of the real time of how the auditor has my numbers. And I understand how it creates more management and potential room for error. So I think you're going in the best direction. And if there's any way, then we can export it and eliminate like the personnel expenses, because those are pretty much fixed, and kind of focus on the 2s and 3s and 4s like we have on been, and export it from Lao. That might be really cool. I know they're getting really skilled over there at the auditor's office with it too, so they might be able to help assist you quite a bit.
Okay.
So
I'll check into that.
Yeah.
John.
I just have a
That's
few
fine.
comments. Thank you for taking the extra step of getting us the details, Terry. So if there was any confusion, it clarifies that. So.
Yeah, and I'll work with Ginger and the auditor's office on moving forward on how we can present you guys and the public with a good summary. I think you're right. Payroll probably doesn't need to be included because that's set. But if for the project lines and everything, if that's what you want to see on a monthly report moving out, then that's the stuff I want to have also in line before Terry leaves, so we're all on the same page for a new person also. So we will definitely work on that. Maybe send out some examples or something.
Great. Well, then we may as well move on to our only other new business, which is the ordinance to amend Chapter 766 of the Stormwater System Fee and Fund. Gary, do you want to
Do we have to
make
move
any
that?
comments about?
I really don't have any comments. We've talked about increasing the stormwater fee, and it got kind of sidetracked. I'd like to bring it forward again and discuss an amount. At this point, we're at 3516 for each ERU. I know that I can tell you that the city increased theirs to just about double that, to 70 something, I think. And we're trying to get some projects built, and they're expensive. Beyond that, I'm not sure I have a whole lot to add. I'd like to get the board's feedback. If there's any comments.
I guess we should have a motion in a second. Anyone want to make the motion?
At this point, I think we need. Without,
I mean, just to officially discuss it.
okay.
I don't want to, because I've been so busy. I'm not prepared for this, but I'll move it to discussion so we can talk about it. Let me move back up to the agenda. So how would I state this, Dave, as purposes for discussion, so we can officially discuss it?
Just start the discussion. I guess one thing that any guidance that I would give you would be that we have done a rate study with Financial Solutions Group. And if you decide to increase the fee, I think it should be related to the specific programs and projects that you want to accomplish in the near future. And I think that there were several fee levels discussed in that Financial Solutions Group report that were keyed to different programs. So I think that, you know, if you pick this program as something you want to accomplish in the near future, then you would want to give strong consideration to adopting the fee. that would actually support that financially. So
Would it help if we had the consultant's report on the screen?
Or at least the three different options, sort of, wasn't it three?
Yeah, let me see if I can find that.
So I guess, was that policy where we are only able to incrementally increase it? Is that still, has that been removed, I guess? Because
I think that's part of the paperwork that Dave sent us. One was removing it, and then one was the fee increase, and that's all has to do with item B for the amendment to the chapter 766. I think it was a joint email that Dave had prepared for us all at the same time, and we didn't, the board did not vote on anything at the time.
right, we tabled that, right?
Yes.
So then this is the actual amount. And I thought those things were going to be more like parallel with each other. Like
That's what I guess I'm saying. They're supposed to be parallel with each other. There's been no action taken on either one.
Right. So I'm a little indifferent on this, and I'll just go ahead and state where my position is there's a lot of action that this board has to take to get things moving. I know other boards, the council's office and the commissioners will take this up again. But once it leaves the stormwater, I don't have the ability to be in those discussions. And I certainly do not think I've gotten enough public feedback to use their, information, to use the way that they feel about this with my decision making. And without that ability, I can't honestly get behind anything. Not that I am or against it. Once it leaves this board, I'm not part of any further discussion. And I want to use the public's feedback in determining my decision. So I would love to see both of these come up and reach out. I know if we were discussing moving this up to the 64, 80, it's over 100% of what it is now, that there would be one or two people from the public here to speak about it. And until I understand that, I just don't feel prepared. So I will recuse myself if it comes to a vote today.
I think the problem.
But if we could engage the public where I can actually understand some of their feedback, then I can have a position on this. So that's just generally how I state. I'm not trying to make anything more difficult, but that's where I'm at with making my decision.
I think the problem is that we really need to make a decision on this so that when Terry's replacement is hired, they can kind of work together on it. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I totally understand, Tron. I completely understand what you're saying also. I do know that there was an article in the newspaper about increasing the stormwater fee a few months ago. I do have a person on Carmela Drive that would be happy to speak. He's affected by one of our projects that we've had to put on hold due to the cost of the project. And he is completely in favor of raising the fee. I think it's just that we're at a point. I talked to Greg Garatas with FSG last week, and he asked me where we stood with the stormwater fee and the projects. And our projects were all, the major projects that you've invested in will all come to a complete halt. We can't keep going because you're going to start getting into the right of way and construction, which is some of the more expensive. And we're going to be at a standstill with all those projects if we keep putting it off. If there's another way to get out there and reach out to the public and you have ideas, I'm all for it. But to keep it moving to where we can try and get this passed, I just think it's in the best interest And if anybody would want to see the FSG report on what the projects are costing, the options that are out there, we would be happy to share that with anybody. But we're kind of moving slowly. I don't think we're doing much on Carmola Drive project right now because we're kind of at a standstill. We don't want to bust the budget. Baby Creek, we're kind of moving slowly with the right-of-way to keep that going. We just got the right-of-way appraisals back for that I think we can afford to keep on going. But once you finish that point, everything takes time, passing the fee, getting to the council, the commissioners, the public, and then figuring out bonds or how we want to afford these. You know, we're going to be 7 or 8 months down the road still of just even trying to keep things going. So if you have ideas on how to get it more out to the public, I'm happy to do so.
Right. I want to make sure it's very clear that it has nothing to do with our engagement or the accessibility to attend these meetings. And just a lot of people don't come to the Stormwater Management Board, and that's just a fact. So I know as this moves forward, there will be a lot of public engagement and public feedback. And, you know, it's unfortunately that I don't really get to use that you know, because I know once it gets to the commissioners and council, you're going to have people attend and you're going to be able to use that with your decision making. But right now, I have very little, and I know it's been out there. I read the article in the HT, and we've tried our best to get people here. And I agree, you know, we need to utilize Terry while he's still here. So again, I think, you know, I'm not going to try to dispute this or persuade anyone not to support it. You know, and we have enough people here to move it forward today. I just don't feel like I can actively make a decision without that feedback, because these are the people that it's going to impact. And trust me, I'll come and talk and discuss at future meetings once I understand things and if I feel differently. Ultimately, I do support what you're doing. It being a ratepayer fee and me not understanding a larger having more engagement and feedback from the public, it doesn't allow me to really want to speak for them at this juncture.
Do we have, with only 3 of us here, and if Tron recuses himself, can a decision be made by just 2?
It takes 3 to make a
Yeah.
decision.
And you know, there was very, very little public acknowledgement of the city's raise, which was pretty significant. So it just may be that the public, I mean, I don't want to say that they aren't interested or anything, but sometimes getting public input is very difficult.
Yeah, Leah, I would say that just looking around the state, most of the counties with populations like Monroe County are in the $70 range for their stormwater fees. So it's not out of line, that's for sure.
And I should imagine many of those counties don't have quite the level of problems with stormwater, with flooding that we have.
Yes.
I'm getting back to the Garitas stuff and trying to see what the different levels were and what that gets us.
And if you can get to it, could you put it up on the screen?
Oh, I'm using a different computer. I mean, I'm looking at it on my other, on my laptop. It was from the special meeting of August, whatever that was. But it was a special meeting that we had in August. And yeah. And I was playing with some of the numbers too, just you know, it looks like there was not a single rate increase from 2013 from what was said. And had we even kept up with inflation, it would be higher. Or if we put in that 3% increase, it would be up over $40 even, you know, for next year. So, yeah.
I'm still looking for it, but what was the recommendation as far as stormwater was going for out of the options? I know there were several options.
One of them is for 103.5% increase. And I'm trying to get to some of the others. Another was for 151% increase. Lisa and Terry, I would just like to hear what you think
Yeah,
takes care of county residents, because that's what part of this is about.
right.
I'm here. I'm just trying to get this file sent to you, this report sent to everyone. In my opinion, after seeing the issues out there, we need more of an effort. And I guess I can point to individual things to you, but we've got flooding issues. We've got projects that we're trying to get done to alleviate that, and it's without just getting behind the 8 ball on these things, it's not going to happen.
Well, and it's going to cause further road deterioration too, which will then cost more money as well,
Yes.
just out of a
Yes.
different pot.
Also costing individual citizens money as their property gets damaged by flooding. And it's not very good for the environment to have all that flooding going on.
So can the 3-option page, can that be put on the screen?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Um,
And I know when Terry and I first started looking at this and Terry started comparing numbers around the state, it seemed like to be, I believe, which was basically doubling what we pay at this point, was in line with what the city of Bloomington had done, completed 2 years ago. And it was also putting us in pretty much the mid-range of where most counties were falling across the state of Indiana. So even before we did the FSG report, doubling that fee seems like the option at the time. And I think when you look at some of the options that FSG puts out, you know, the 103%, that gives us options on what we can do at that point on how many years you want to go out for bonding for those 4 big projects.
So it lets us do the project and add the extra personnel that Terry was suggesting as well, right?
An inspector, everyone has thrown out that they want an inspector in the county. It's a dire need for the county. But stormwater can't afford taking on more personnel, more projects, and sustain. We just can't do it. If we tried to do one of those big projects, we would be broke. And we don't want to do that. We can't do that. We'd like to have we talked to FSG on how much percentage we should always retain for our budget. And as you know, Greg had stated it, if we don't raise the fee, we're not going anywhere.
Well, and we need, if we were going to do any of the projects that you've already done the planning for, and that we've already spent a significant amount of money to do all the planning for, design work, however you want to phrase it, we're going to have to bond, and we're going to have revenue to do those revenue bonds.
And I've reached out to other entities that have a stormwater, and this is how a lot of them get their bigger projects done. They bond to move forward and get things accomplished. And so, but we can't bond without the extra revenue also. But But as of right now, we just, see the inspector is a dire need in the county for the development going on. We see what the problems have caused. Terry's position has realized it does not have the time to do all the reviews that are necessary, keep up with all of the requirements with stormwater. So yeah, we've had the time to evaluate where the need is and keep moving forward. And now to be able to accomplish some of those items is, it's inevitable to raise the fee.
So my hope was that it wouldn't take 3 votes and I could actually recuse myself. But also, we do need to take up the, or address the fact that we still have to move the amending the policy forward as well that we tabled our last month. And I think, and I don't want to delay anymore, and I don't want to hold it up. And if people are willing, and I already apologize, this is somewhat of a delay. We shoot for a special meeting. I know, Terry, I kind of promised you no special meetings, maybe a week out or so, or and then we add that other item to our agenda because we'll have to advertise it. It's not on our agenda. And then we could take up both of those. So ultimately, we still have to take up the other one. So we have to, if we do them parallel, we're still kind of in sync. And then if, no one decides to attend, I can't sit here and, drag people to the water and force them to drink. So at that point, I feel like I could take a position, and maybe we could also have a full quorum and this, still move things forward, because ultimately I am supportive. I've been supportive this entire time. It's just, I would love to have some feedback from the public, and that's just where I'm at. So, I would hope people are amenable to that. If not, we can continue to discuss this. And, the fact is I did state that I didn't want to drag this down. And so the fact that you need 3 votes is significant, but I don't know if it's significant enough to change my mind.
Let me, I've dug up the report and the fee comparison throughout the state. Connie, if you'll bring up the bar graph of the different fees, first of all.
And these are by month, right?
These are their
Isn't that what I see? Yeah.
Yes. And if you look, Bloomington is, Monroe County, Bloomington was 270 and Monroe County is just below it at 293. And this was back in 2015, I believe the study was done. So we're at 315 now. So if, scroll up a little bit, Connie, can you rotate it? Didn't like that, did it? Well, we just lost it. The point I was going to make is that we're, I would say, in the bottom third as far as fees go with other counties in the state. That's about all I can take there, but even at, if we doubled it to 5 something, that would allow us to do a majority of our jobs that we were talked about in the report. And I think that that amount is something that we should go up, should be discussed.
We need to keep in mind that Monroe County does have worse flooding problems than a lot of other counties, and we're growing kind of faster, which causes the problems to be worse. I was surprised to hear that we were in the bottom third.
Yeah, we're struggling here a bit, bringing it up. See if you can bring it up again, Connie.
What I saw, it looked like even Ellettsville has a higher fee than ours.
Okay. We're struggling here, Lee and Penny.
That's okay. That's okay. I kind of got the gist of it beforehand. I just don't remember exactly what all each increase gave us is what didn't stick in my head. And for me, that's what I need for the decision making, because I agree we need that inspector. We've got such a backlog on all the requests for work that we do need that second crew. And I really do think it would be a misuse of taxpayer money not to do some of these improvements that we've already paid a good bit for design work on.
Right, right. Hold right there, Connie. Let's scroll down and see if we can see the summary on the options. It's just taking a while to regen.
I was going to say, yeah, to load.
Yeah.
Put them up on your screen and have Michelle let you share. Are they up on your screen?
No, they're not.
And put them, they did copy over onto the USB drive.
If people want to email me the documents, I'm happy to put them up on the screen.
Terry, are you able to email the document to Michelle?
Yeah, I'm looking for her email address here.
But you can just send it to zoom@co.monroe.in.us.
Okay.
As we're doing that, I guess, Dave, I have a question for you. Like, we do need to take action on the amendment to the local policy. Is it policy or ordinance that we tabled last month that regulates the increased amount, correct?
Well, the first step you would have is decide sort of what amount you're thinking about adopting, and then conduct a hearing on that amount. So you're going to have a public hearing on this, and then it gets passed to the county council for approval, and then to the county commissioners.
Where do we as the stormwater board have a public hearing?
That is correct.
Okay, then I guess I'm misunderstanding the process a bit.
Right. So you at a meeting, the stormwater board will say, we want to conduct a hearing on this new rate. And then you advertise a hearing, 10 days ahead of time, newspaper advertisements and all that. The public is entitled to attend and weigh in on the proposed rate. Then if the Stormwater Board decides to adopt that rate, it sends it to the county council. And if the county council approves it, then to the commissioners.
Okay.
So really, the action today would just be to establish a public meeting?
Right, relative to a specific rate. In other words, have a hearing on this proposed rate.
And then we would take up the ordinance 2020. Oh, sorry, Lee. Okay.
Yeah,
I was asking if that would satisfy you, Tron, you know, if we could at least.
Absolutely. I mean, and now we have these numbers that I've been looking for those for the last 30 minutes as well. And more to the point of what Penny was making is like, what do each of these options give you? I remember seeing a different street or a different page where it broke it down to if we wanted to increase it by different amounts, and
Right.
then how that then tied into your long range strategic plan for stormwater, which I was just kind of reviewing as well.
You are correct. There is another page that shows the different comparisons, and if you raise it to this kind of different scenarios.
Yeah,
That's
I
the one that
apologize
has
for
the,
not understanding the process.
sorry, that's the image that needs to be rotated, correct?
No, that was a different one. That was showing the rates in different counties.
Oh, okay, I apologize.
Yep. What? Come on, this is your responsibility, Michelle.
I mean, whatever. Just let me know what you want me to put up on the screen.
No.
So,
Can anyone tell her where to find that in the report?
can you go to the
I
next
could-
page, Michelle?
No, this is the bottom. That's the last page
That's
that's up
last
there.
page, so you want to go slowly backwards.
I've been trying to do that and I can't figure out what gets paid for with the different alternatives, because there are 4 alternatives here. And that's what I can't figure out, what we buy with each of the alternatives.
Was that the way it was broken down?
Well, you had cost estimates, didn't you, either Lisa or Terry, about what
It should
those
be,
different projects would cost
yeah,
us?
I think it was 8 million? I think it should be in here.
That's for all the projects?
That's for all of those, yes.
Because do we have these essential projects prioritized at all, or are they all just really essential?
Those were the 4 projects that were kind of chosen as essential projects. So we could prioritize if we didn't want to bond for all of those projects. But again, that also was going to decide what we could have, what we could afford and what the fee was going to be, what the fee needed to be adjusted to.
Okay, if you go to the first page of the summary, that's got the FSG logo at the top and it's dated August the 12th. It actually says the first alternative gives us this, the second alternative gives us this, and it lays out those costs. Keep going up.
I thought there was a summary page somewhere.
Yeah, it's in the, keep going up.
So when you work on a laptop and a desktop, your packets get stored separately.
Okay, stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
If anyone could send me this, I'd be very appreciative of that.
It's in the special meeting packet from August that we
Yeah, I
did.
saved those to my laptop.
Okay, well, you should be able to pull it up from the county's website. That's what I did just now. So it tells us the first alternative there. It's kind of cut off a little bit there. Yeah. And then the second alternative gives us the stuff on I'll not say it right, but on Baby Creek and Morris Creek and stuff, it's as well, you know.
So really, it's the third alternative that takes into account, or no, I'm sorry.
It's the second one that does, looks like it gives us everything.
Yeah.
And then the third one is at least one fewer projects, maybe two. And then the fourth one really only gives us limited projects.
So exhibit, looks like maybe exhibit 5 would reference the second alternative. Does that tell you what the fee would have to be increased to? If we go to, I guess, that exhibit.
It's actually on the next page. It says alternative 2 bonded for 20 years results in a proposed yearly rate of $71.55.
And that's doubling the fee, I think, basically.
Basically, close to it.
And quickly, with your recommendations that you presented at the June meeting, you were proposing it to be kind of at the 7140. Is that still in line with what your recommendations are?
Well, the 7155 Tron, if it's bonded for 20 years, that gives us those 4 projects. It gives us the additional staff and additional vehicle, right? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, so we had the recommendations prior to we had this analysis done. So I guess which way is stormwater leaning now, since we had this kind of financial breakdown done?
So,
Ron, I'm trying to catch up with Penny here.
So myself, I'm comfortable with the 7155 because I think that's a huge step for stormwater. I think the inspector is a given that you do that no matter what. And then I think that you look at your options on between the crew and the major capital improvement projects. And then maybe you would not have to, if we only, we have options of if we added 1 crew member, 1 piece of equipment, and then only had to bond for 10 years or 15 years. To me, I would like to look at those options, but for sure doing an inspector for the county, because that is an overall need for everyone, and looking at where our projects are to finish some of the major capital improvement projects and how I don't really want to bond for 20 years, to be honest. I would rather go less years.
I was uncomfortable with that, Lisa, also.
I think we had discussed that. We were both uncomfortable with bonding for 20 years. We would have rather looked at hiring an inspector, seeing what capital improvement projects we can do in more of a 10-year to 15-year period, and using that extra if we could only add 1 more crew member out there is more than not adding any at all.
Well, it says here that we could do alternative 2, bond only for 10 years, and that gives us a rate of 75.77.
That's alternative 3.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. So I think he says, sorry, I've got 2 laptops going here. That's why I keep looking back the other way. So near the end, it talks about the different, now that I know which alternative is which. So I'm trying to figure out.
inspector would also inspecting for the plan department.
Yes, it would include, yes, and working with the planning department on new development and such.
Yeah. But not building. That's separate.
That would be, they have their, yeah, they have their own inspectors basically.
Right.
Okay, if on page 13 of this report, Exhibit I, it indicates that if we wanted to go with alternative 2 with a 10-year bond, we would need a rate increase of 151%, which would, sorry, I've got my calculator here too. Which would kick it up to $88.25 a month.
Okay, and I guess that's why I was thinking.
I'm sorry, a year.
A year. That's why I was thinking we wouldn't be adding the full crews at that point and the extra equipment and the extra fleet, so that we wouldn't be increasing it to that level.
Everyone,
So-
this is Terry. It was my feeling that we shouldn't be bonding to the point that our budget is tight, such that we can't take care of our everyday needs. New vehicles, additional manpower to service the county on a daily basis. And we may have to cut back on one of the projects if once we prioritize them and just not get them all done. But we can't run ourselves tight to do our, daily services.
So the 7155 allows you to bond for 10 years, correct?
No,
That's
that's
a
a 20
the
year.
proposal
That's
is
a 20 as
20-year
well.
bond.
And so the only ability for do the bonding for 10 years is at 86. And bonding is still kind of very unfamiliar with me. So
Unless you go with alternate 3.
Right,
Alternate 3 is a 10-year bond, less money towards projects, but keeping the same for crew.
yeah, it would still allow you to do, it looks like 3 of the 4 projects.
So you could go with alternate 3, which is I think a $75 a year fee, 75, 77 maybe.
okay, 75. Yep.
75, 77, yeah.
I was reading that wrong. Sorry.
That would be a 10-year bond on 3 of the projects, and then plus you're able to add the additional crew and inspectors and things. And another thing I have to think about outside of adding new crew members and equipment and everything is space. The highway garage has, they have one parking lot for everything. So we have to, it's a lot to think about on everything and making sure that we have room for everybody and every piece of equipment that we purchase in the future. But the 20-year bond, Terry and I both discussed, we just did not want to go out that far with a project of 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you put the rate at 75, you could still do a 20-year bond if you chose to. So
Gives us more options.
yeah, I mean, gives you more options.
Yeah. So for today, what was in today's agenda, sorry, I got to get back there. The ordinance that we're proposing. So are we talking about moving the rate from the 35.16 to, what was it, 75.77?
That's for alternate
Yes.
3.
So do we need a motion to do that? So that then goes on to other, so then we have the public hearing and then it goes on to the other entities?
And I'm completely fine with supporting that. And again, I apologize for not understanding the process that this was going to trigger that public meeting that, I felt like I didn't get. And if people don't show up, that's on them. Like I said, this has nothing to reflect the stormwater's engagement. It's just the participation of the public.
You're good, Ron. I agree with you.
So do we need to decide on a rate before we set the public meeting, or it seems to me that that should be a part of the discussion? In which case, really, all we have to do today is determine when the public meeting would be.
And set the amount.
You set the amount.
That's what I asked. We would
Yeah.
have to set the amount.
Yeah, I would say if you set the amount at 75, whatever, that you could decide in the course of a public hearing to recommend a lower rate to the
Right.
council and the commissioners. So I think going to the higher rate just gives you more options and
Let's just not double budget like council. That might just send the wrong message. I feel very strongly comfortable with that. So I'll make a motion unless either other member would like to make further comments or discussion. No? Well, I will make the motion that we amend ordinance chapter 766 stormwater systems fee and fund amount to $75.77.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Terry, would you please call the roll?
I will. Lee Jones,
Yes.
Penny Givens,
Yes.
Tron Randolph, Enright Randolph, excuse me, Tron.
No worries. You should hear Larry sometimes.
And that's it, right? In attendance. It looks like it's
Yeah.
passed 3-0.
Thank
Great.
you. And now do we have a separate motion to set the public meeting? Or would that just take place at our next meeting?
yeah, you want to schedule a public meeting, so direct staff to advertise. And if you want it on the same date as your next meeting, that's fine. But it needs to be advertised as a hearing rather than just as a meeting.
Yeah.
So if we do our regular meeting, can we then suspend that for our hearing? So it could be at the same date and same time?
But yeah, it could just be incorporated in the meeting.
Okay.
One of the agenda items could be hearing on so-and-so, so.
So I'd leave that up to Stormwater's preference if they want to move it to the next month or if they think there's more of an immediate need. So I guess that was a question as well.
Lisa, we talked about incorporating a new rate at the beginning of the year. Does that give us a window to do that, or was that critical to do that?
It was not critical to do that.
Okay.
I think it was just our hope and anticipation to do it that way. But it is, I think as long as it gets in, I think, would that start for the net, if everything passes, Dave, does that begin for the payable in the May 2021?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime before then,
Yeah.
if it's approved, it gets on the May bill and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That was the timeline we were trying to get.
Yeah, this isn't like a tax. So it's just, you want to do it tomorrow, you do it tomorrow, and you can collect it tomorrow. If you wanted to, you can send out bills, to people tomorrow. But since you've decided to collect it with taxes, you just generally anytime before your tax bills go out, you'd want to have that done.
I think it's a better idea to go on scheduled meetings and not try to appear to be rushing it.
I agree. I agree.
So no further action is really required at this time.
Well, you just to instruct them to schedule a hearing at the next meeting or whenever.
Yes, so
Do we need a vote on that? or
Sure.
I'm just covering my bases. As you
I
can tell, this
appreciate it.
process is a bit new to me. So I move that we entertain this at our next regular meeting, a hearing on the amendment that was just approved. Does that suffice?
Yes.
Second,
Penny Githens,
yes,
Ron Enright Randolph,
Yes.
Lee Jones,
Yes.
All right.
3-0.
We're gonna
Approved.
have the other document to look at in our agenda too, right? Next month, so we can kind of just look at this and then that one. Just, I want to make sure we don't have any loose ends.
You're talking about my expenditure summary?
No, the local ordinance amendment we tabled last month.
And then maybe also include the FSG study.
Okay. I'll get the ordinance and the study, and I would like to be back on track with our expenditure report at that time also. Am I missing anything?
Oh, thank you for your hard work.
Yes. Yeah.
I know I don't see anything on there for other business, but I just actually wanted to give the board a little bit of an update before you go to adjournment on Terry's replacement. We have it posted at this point until November 20th, I believe, maybe the week of Thanksgiving. We have it on 4 different sites. We have it on Indeed. We have it on LinkedIn. We have it at Purdue. And then we also have it at the Stormwater NAFSME Association.
In
Yes, that's it. Sorry, I'm not part of that group. That's his group. So we do have it at those 4 places. I know I printed off, I think maybe 8 to 9 resumes that we've received so far. I was wondering when we do, I'm sure interviews could be Zoom, or if people want to social distance in one of the meeting rooms at the thing. I think Julie I had mentioned to her in the past about maybe sitting in on an interview. I don't know if the other ones are interested, but I just want to put that out there. It's our goal to bring somebody in middle of December, or when the new 2021 budget starts. So that's kind of our goal. And that's why we've got the job posted at this point. So, so Terry, you'll have time to cross-train for a couple months, be at a couple of the meetings with Drainage Board, Plan Commission, Stormwater Board with the new employee. So if you guys know of anybody that's interested in the job also, send them our way. But I just wanted to give you a update on his replacement, kind of where we're at with it.
Yeah, I think if it were Zoom interviews, it would be good for us to be able to.
The only thing that I think would be an issue, and Dave, correct me if wrong, is if I had a quorum.
Oh, yes.
And so I don't want to tell you guys not to attend, but I don't know if I could like advertise for a public meeting, setting up interviews. So
You don't want to scare them away.
No, I don't.
I'm here if you need me, but I think you'll do a wonderful job.
Okay, and I know, like I said, I've mentioned it. I talked to Julie just about a month ago because we were talking about karst and making sure maybe somebody has some experience there, if possible. So I asked her if I could ask somebody from the board to set in on interviews, and she just thought it would be a great idea. So, so if you guys want to talk amongst yourselves and one of you, but I'll throw it out there through an email when we get them set up, if somebody would like to attend to represent the board.
well, we could even have 2 of us, because that wouldn't be a quorum.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I really appreciate about working with Terry is that you're not at all put off by working with women here. I want to make sure that we get somebody that with that mentality. How's that? Attitude, whatever.
Hey, I've had some women apply. So.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
No offense, Tron and Terry. I'm just kidding.
Oh, no. I'm totally for empowering women in thresholds of industry that aren't really represented there.
Well, I know Terry.
I had someone work with me for 3 years that is just,
Ron.
there's not too many women in the surveying profession.
You might want to stop right now, Tron, while you're
Ron, I
ready.
was just going to say it's time to be quiet.
I love working with everybody, but I just want, I can't wait to recognize her achievements that she had in this office. It was quite educational and joyful to work alongside our former PS here. And you too, Terry. I can't believe you're out in just a handful of months. It's been very nice to work along with you.
Thank you.
I just have heard Vi Simpson tell stories about people walking into meetings and they're just women and they're like, well, where are the, where's your auditor? Where's your,
They can get used to it.
Yep.
All right, there's no further discussion. I think we could be adjourned. Right, we're adjourned.
thank you.